The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go, Monday night, the Monday Club, a staple show of the Bhoycie bus. It's been here, I think the first show ever did was a Monday Club. I'm not sure you were invited to the party at that point, Jonathan, but it has only got bigger and better since you did join. But what a weekend it has been in the world of Celtic. What a weekend it's been for the bus. I am sure most of you are sick to death of hearing my points of view. I'm recycling the same old patter day in, day out. I'm trying my best to think of new content for us to talk about, but we can't miss a Monday because I know it is one of the most popular shows we do. I know how many people like, after the first day back at work, getting that wee release of Boyce's Monday Club. So I can't disappoint. We are back. Jonathan, how the devil are you, my boy?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. I'm back and rearing to go. Thoroughly enjoyed my time at the football on Saturday. Might have been the best I think I've seen Celtic in the flesh, which is a bold statement, but I thought they were absolutely outstanding from first to last minute, and you'll struggle to see a better performance all season.
Well, Jonathan, I think we've waxed lyrical about the performance on the bus, whether it have been during Fan Cam Live, whether it was on post-match pish, whether it was on a Sunday blather with Regan. But we will get your take on it as well, because you were there, and obviously you have absolutely enjoyed your day. You'd had, well, enjoyed it as a bit of an understatement. You'd have absolutely loved your life on Saturday afternoon, as we all were, whether we were at the game or not. Phil McGinley's in the bus. He says, "Take me to the bus station. I want to see the Boyce'S." Nah.
Got into it. That could work.
James McGuire's asking if I've got any new impressions, Jonathan. I'm telling you, my impressions are all right, but apparently they're shite according to the WhatsApp group chat. Anyway, everyone says when I'm absolutely shite. Liam Collow's letting everyone know he's going to PT sessions these days. I like that, Liam, mate. We all get it. You're keeping fit, son. We get it. We like that, mate. D-Mac comes in. He got his Boyce Bus t-shirt today.
Yes.
He says he looks extremely handsome in it. It's actually the softest t-shirt ever. I don't tell porky pies, Jonathan. I told you the truth. I had samples. I went with the most expensive one. There's best material out there. We're getting various people. Someone else was in the chat right at the beginning and during the opening credits saying they've received their green Don't Back Down double t-shirt as well. Don't Back Down double down t-shirt. And they're saying it's absolutely minted as well. So I am buzzing with that. What I would say is, if you've got the t-shirt and you're on Twitter or you're on Facebook, give me a follow, give me an ad on Facebook, and share me photos of you in the t-shirt. I think that would be good. Bruce FM thinks I'm planning on doing a Tyson Fury impression.
Oh, he's been keeping an eye on the chat. Are we going to get to see the Fury impression? Maybe in a couple of weeks. Maybe keep that one back.
Yeah, and I'll need to work on it a wee bit, but it's not bad, the Fury one. I remember went a bus to see a train. Sorry, I know. Sorry to all bus drivers out there, but I got a train up to see Liam Gallagher in Aberdeen, and there was a young team on the bus. You got to stick in with the young team, otherwise you become a target with hair like mine, Jonathan. So you got to kind of stick in with them. And,
me and you both.
So all the bands are like having a bit of fun on the bus and picking folk out on the train. And picking folk out. I'm obsessed with buses on the train, and they were all sort of like pointing at folk on the train, trying to slag them. And one of them tried to slag someone in a Tyson Fury voice. So I stood up and obviously went, in full Tyson Fury mode, and they were loving me, mate. They were loving me. They were offering to buy me all sorts, and it wasn't just drink, I'll tell you that. I was like, it's all right, lads. I'm just doing it with the missus. Come back to the hotel, son. I was like, no, mate. The Tyson Fury impression is not that good. I'm getting fully out with a bunch of kids. But anyway, thanks for the offer all the same. Anyway,
slap them back in the corner.
That's it, mate. That's it. So we have been absolutely overwhelmed with the response to the t-shirts. They are doing so well, and the feedback's really important because at least it shows that I'm not just talking shite. For anyone who has not bought one, there they are there on the screen, or at least they should be, the first 3 photos. There are other brilliant tees on the site as well. Remember, it is simply a case of just going to our sponsors, fanboyfootball.com's website, and you will be able to get your own t-shirt. Best material out there, comfiest material, I'm getting told, and all the postage is paid for by the bus driver. That is the least I could do. And look at those crackers, Jonathan. I don't know if you've seen the photo of Ian at Green and White one.
Green and White one looks terrific.
See, he wore the Don't Back Down double down one, and the colour of it actually does look minted. So I am chuffed with the response. Chunks is looking for help. I've not brought up a comment for Chunks in ages. What's happening? My wife has said that if the like button doesn't get hit at least 100 times during this episode, then I'm getting battered by her on her 14 personalities. Martin Cade comes in. He's ordered the black one. Thank you, mate. I love this. I love it. I don't think it's about, as I say, and I'll repeat myself, this is not a crazy money-making exercise. Trust me, I'll be doing well to afford to pay the trainers a tip. Do you know what I mean? It's not about that. It's about trying to get folk involved and feeling a part of it. And I've tried to do that with the Double Doon show, by then getting Double Doon show guests to come on post-match pish. And word has it, Jonathan, that the Sunday Blether show with Regan Stevenson went so well yesterday. He's now going to host it to take it to that next level, naturally. And he wants other guests that have been on the Double Doon show and post-match pish, other bus contributors, to jump on his show once a week as well. So it may get to the stage I might not even be on one of the shows, which I know everyone will be buzzing with. So
huge news, that given the keys to the bus. But
I know.
I mean, Regan would certainly be a more than capable driver, put it that way. More than capable.
Absolutely, because you are wanting a wee bit of variation. It's not about, by the way, getting folk to do your donkey work for you. Do you know what I mean? We've all known folk like that. But it's about going at times. Your opinion can sometimes, Bhoycie, be getting rammed down people's throats, maybe just a wee bit much, the same old shite. So Regan just holds his own. I'll definitely do the show with him next Sunday, just me and him. And then the week after that will probably be me and him and another from the bus. Jonathan, it could even be you. You never know your luck.
I'll keep my diary free just in case.
Can I call Russell Dad if he's calling me son? Folk get annoyed when you call them son, eh? Is it maybe patronising? I don't mean it to be patronising. I call someone son. I think it's quite an affectionate term, but maybe it does offend people. Who cares? I got the black one. I love it so much, says Kaylee Gall, our sweetheart in the comments. That's brilliant, Kaylee. We're delighted. But anyway, Jonathan, enough of all that self-promotion. Again, as I say, this team, it doesn't stop, Jonathan. It doesn't stop. That seems to be the punchline. But I found Andrew's other quote pre-match very interesting on the Friday. They'll get left behind in response to talking about complacency perhaps being a mitigating factor as to whether Celtic would win the league or not. Jonathan, there's no sign of complacency. Ange has the keys to the training ground. He sees these players day in, day out. There's no way they're putting in displays like they did on Saturday if even one of them is letting up on this relentless pursuit of the SPFL title.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we all seen that firsthand on Saturday. I think, going into the game, I was kind of thinking it could have been one of those games where, it might have been a bit tighter than it eventually obviously turned out to be. Thinking there could be a bit of nerves playing a factor here. You've just had a big win over your nearest rivals. There's a lot of reasons that Celtic could have taken the foot off the gas. It never really came to that whatsoever. You can just tell because of the fact the squad is now pretty much at full strength. Everyone is having to fight. If you're not at it, you're being complacent, you'll just get dropped out of the team. And there's so much quality now throughout the squad. Ange can do that in pretty much any position he wants now and be like, well, if you're not going to be putting the effort in, we'll just put you out and we'll get somebody else and who's just as good, if not better, off the bench. And it's all about mentality. And I think that all goes back to what Ange has said since day one. It's not just about the quality of the player he's wanting in his squad. It's about the players that have the right attitude to play for Celtic Football Club. And I think that is something he's obviously looked at quite closely when he's been doing his transfer business, particularly in January. So, you can't be overly surprised. But at the same time, to put 7 past St Johnstone, when you're on the brink of a championship, right at the pressure cooker point of the season now, where you are within touching distance of the championship, it would be easy for you to get a bit of cold feet or beginning to think, well, we've done it at Ibrox last week. There's not really much going on here now. This is hard to get ourselves up for it. But it's a total opposite with this team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they go on to win all the remaining league games now.
Oh, it's big calls already, and that's what the Boyce brothers do. We don't back down, Jonathan. We double down every single Monday. If we've got a point to make, we're not afraid to share it. We're quite happy to voice it. We are not going to sit on the fence and say, well, it was good, but it might be better, and we can't count our chickens yet. All those old boring cliches. Jonathan Boyce, in the first quote of the night, has already said Celtic win the remaining league games. I love this shit. And it's not headline grabbing, Jonathan. It's your gut feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just have to look at how Celtic have been playing and who's actually going to stop us at this point. The run has been absolutely unbelievable that we've been on. It's about, 40-odd games or something, unbeaten, something ridiculous along those lines domestically. And there's just nothing really that strikes fear into me in the games that we've got left to play. You're going to be going at Dingwall, you're going to be going at Tannadice. You've obviously got Rangers at home, you've got Hearts coming up at home and Motherwell at home as well. None of those games really strike me as ones that I'm overly concerned that Celtic couldn't get the job done in. I guess, if they were to clinch the title early, which hopefully they do go on and do, then there is the possibility then that he could rotate the squad and drop points. But even then, the depth of this team, he could make about 6 or 7 changes and he would still beat most teams in the SPL, in my opinion, with how they're going just now. That is how good they are. And I think Ange is going to want them just to go full throttle right to the end of the season. He doesn't want them to stop. He wants them racing over this finishing line, not stumbling over it.
Love it. I love it, Jonathan. Your pattern is good, mate. You actually get me kind of motivated, and I'm like, fucking right, Jonathan. We are going to race over that line. You're right. I love that vibe, mate. But the funniest thing is, I know I asked you this last week, but we have to try and get our heads round what happened. You are now saying it. I'm nodding along. Depth in the squad. We brought in 4 players that have featured in the first team since the turn of the year, and one of them barely in Idiguchi. 3 new players, yet the squad feels to have doubled in size. How does that work?
It's hard to really put your finger on it, isn't it? I think
he's not signed another 11 players, has he?
No, it's all down to his coaching ability, which I think sometimes as much as we've given him a lot of credit for it, I think that's probably about the biggest compliment you can pay him. Is the fact he's not really signed an absolute barrel load of players in January anyway. He's added in improvements where he needed them. But, I think a combination of getting players back fit and firing, which he didn't necessarily have in the first half of the season, and the fact he's now had so many months to coach these players, and every single one of them has bought in to what Ange's been trying to get them to do, I think just goes to show how great a manager he's actually been. Wow.
Liam Collo with the strangest analogy of the night, but I like it. Jonathan would be a good motivator in the catty or the garage to get you up the road.
So I'll be your wingman at the weekend, Liam. I've got no plans. Saturday night.
Outstanding. Come on, Liam. He does PT at 5 a.m. He's the fittest man in the world. He'll keep you up all night. Don't worry about that. He'll race over that line. Anyway, I digress. We're talking about the depth. And here comes Danielle, a regular contributor in the comments. Danielle is considering coming on the show. We've not quite set a May date yet, but Danielle's going to come on, I'm sure.
A big one. First woman on the bus.
First female, but to me it means, it does. It should just, it's equality, mate. It's not about because definitely. Danielle's feet. I don't give a shit whether, if it's, whoever it is, as long as they want to talk Celtic, I'm happy with that. It doesn't matter what the gender is, the race is, I don't care. So, yes, it shouldn't really be a big deal that the first female coming on, but of course it will be a good vibe to break that barrier. Not that we've created that barrier, it's just been one of those things that's not quite happened yet. Now, one thing, we're talking about the depth. She'd wanted to see wee Gucci come on instead of McCarthy. Dying to see the wee man. He looks a tidy player. Now, that is interesting as well because James McCarthy got the best part of 20 minutes on Saturday. James McCarthy seems to me so far out the picture that I think if they can arrange a free transfer for him in the summer, they'd be delighted to do that. No offence, I actually thought McCarthy was one of the best signings in the summer. When I looked through the list of them, I genuinely thought, no, he'll do well up here. It's his dream move, etc.
I think you see parallels with that, Russell, in some ways with, Shane Duffy the season, obviously before, it wasn't just Shane Duffy's fault, the season went terribly up the season before, but everyone always thought Shane Duffy, when he came in, being a bigger name from the Premiership, would have had a big impact in the SPFL. Would you say, is it being overly harsh, do you think, to turn around and say James McCarthy is almost going into that same sort of bracket in terms of, maybe not in terms of mistakes as such, but in terms of being a bit underwhelming in a Celtic jersey?
It's been, I think as well, Andrews was disappointed, I think, with play. I don't want to cause controversy, right? We're in a great place, and he needed bodies in. There's no two ways about that, and I'm convinced a couple of the bodies, particularly Scales and McCarthy, were signed, above his head. That is the vibe I get. For me, McCarthy's going to be 30? He was 31. He turned in October, something like that. So he'll be turning 32 next year. He's been fully fit basically all season, Jonathan. Maybe not match sharp, but fully fit almost all season. He's not a looking mate, realistically. I kind of see where Daniel's coming from with the why not have played Hidiguchi the last 20 minutes. We're dying to see what the fourth Japanese player can bring to this first team, because we've now got a body of evidence to support these J-League signings and just pulling out his arse are phenomenal. Hatate scored again. We know he's had a slight dip, but he looked like he'd ran his race at Ibrox. He was a surprise inclusion, you could say, on Saturday. He scores a wonderful goal and reminds us all why question and Ange tends to be a stupid thing to do, because you always end up with egg in your face. You always do. And believe me, I've had more egg in my face with Ange Postecoglou than anyone.
Your face is like an omelette these days. How much
yeah, something like that, mate. Something like that. But yeah, I think the depth thing's very interesting. It's brilliant to even have a debate, though. I've talked about a guy with 50 caps for Ireland, whether he should be coming on, playing for his dream team, his dream club to play for, with 20 minutes to go, and whether it should be a January transfer signing that we did at the beginning of the window as opposed to on loan at the end of the window. I think this is quite exciting times, Jonathan, that these are the debates we're having. And by the way, as much as I might be saying, McCarthy might be somebody they look to get rid of in a free transfer. I also don't think Ange plays anyone on sentiment. So I think the fact James McCarthy came on for the best part of 20 minutes on Saturday must be because he's doing something right in training still.
Got to look at it as well. Obviously, you're looking ahead. If you're looking ahead to the weekend, you're playing obviously Rangers again in a huge game, Scottish Cup semi-final, a chance to really lay down a marker and potentially put the treble fully on. And he's maybe looking at it and thinking, if Celtic and Rangers play a similar game to what they did last Sunday, it could be a tight game, and you might need McCarthy at some point in there to tighten things up if we get our noses, in front. And it's maybe just a case that at this moment in time, McCarthy might just be seen as the more reliable option, with Bhoycie being one that's more there for the future, and he's maybe not quite at the stage yet for Ange where he's ready to play in these types of games, and that's where you go to the experience of McCarthy, and I think that's maybe why he's given him minutes at the weekend there, is because he knows he could be somebody that comes in handy in a game against Rangers, particularly if it's tight and we're needing to shut up shop at some point.
No, I think that's fair comment as well, Jonathan. Absolutely. James Maguire comes in as well, and he leads us on to our next talking point nicely. He's liking the look of the post-split fixtures. Get the business done early doors. We can start giving Gucci and Julians of the world some sort of game time before the end of the season. It's hard to disagree with that, albeit Julian and Welsh weren't in the first 18 on Saturday, which I find quite insightful. But the fixture list, Jonathan, is out. Ross County away, then them at home. 2 wins, and barring a miracle, that's it. The title will be back home. Simple, right?
Easy peasy. I was a bit surprised with the way they've actually done it. I expected Rangers to be the first game after the split. I thought they might have just put them on Rangers in the Cup semi and Rangers again the following weekend, but they've got a completely different route with it. Bit of a risky one because, if Rangers were to drop points and Celtic were to beat Ross County, then it's absolutely mathematically impossible. Whereas I know exactly what you're saying. Even if they both win and Celtic beat Rangers with a bit of 20-odd better goal difference, it's all over by the singing and cheering anyway. And so it's exciting games to look forward to. The splits actually worked out quite well for us with the way results played out over the weekend, because it has meant we've got the accurate split in the sense we're not having to go to another team for a third time. We had concerns that we could have had to make, potentially another trip to Livingston. Could have been another trip to Aberdeen or Hibs or something along those lines. Could have very easily played out if the top six had been slightly different, which it very much could have been right up until the last minute on Saturday afternoon. But if you're looking at it, from a Celtic point of view, you're looking at those games, you've got to be licking your lips. They're so close to getting themselves over the line. Ross County will be a tricky one. No two ways about it. Ross County proved to be a good match for us in Dingwall last time we were there. And it's probably one of the key games we'll look back on at the end of the season if indeed this turns out to be the success we're expecting it to be now, with Ralston scoring in the 97th minute the last time we went to Dingwall. But I just think at the moment Celtic have just too much for whoever's left to play in the league. I'm not convinced our rivals have enough fight left in them. Now, I think the stuffing might get knocked out of them.
Oh, he said knocked out.
Yeah, but it's not my knockout of the week though. But it could very well be that they don't have much left going for them. I really do feel that for our rivals this week, pivotal for them. For us, we take care of Ross County. It's TikTok. It's TikTok as far as I'm concerned, and it's TikTok. Just such a great position for us to be in. And who would have thought that at the start of the season?
No, absolutely no one, Jonathan. That's the thing. Absolutely no one would have. The thing is with the fixture list, at the end of the day, you've got to play your round robin of 33 fixtures, Jonathan. Play the same teams 3 times, and whoever's in the top 6, it's your Donald Duck. For us, I don't think it's as newsworthy. I know we're going to talk about it because we've done so many shows the past few days that you're running out of stuff to talk about, and at least this was breaking news, if you like, today, the fixture list being out. The only thing I would take from the top 6 as well is I think it's weak on paper in comparison with what it normally is. No Aberdeen, no Hibs. Was it Dundee United's first season back in, second season back in the top flight?
Season back in, I think, yeah.
Is it
they were in it last year. Yeah, they were in it last year.
Cool. And then you've got, Motherwell making it by the skin of their teeth, who have been I think they've won like 3 games out of their last 25 or something. It sounds stupid like that. Anyway, I'm just making it up now, but it's a terrible record they've got this season anyway. And then you've got Ross County, who, okay, are dark horses to make the top 6, but again, aside on paper, you would think that's quite cushy having a team like that as one of your away fixtures. Out of the 2 away fixtures, you've got Ross County. You'd have took that before the top 6 was decided. So I'm very confident how that's worked out. They've put the Rangers game to the second fixture now. All being well, we win. I mean, if we're to beat then Rangers, and I'm going to talk positively about it. I know there's a lot of work to be done and all that, but the fact of the matter is, we're not the coaching team. The manager's made it abundantly clear they're not going to get complacent. And I don't think it's wrong as a fan to dream. I'm here to be optimistic about Celtic and what they can do. And I'm basing it on, by the way, a lot of what I've seen, particularly since the turn of the year. There's a lot of evidence-based discussion here happening that it is not a foregone conclusion, but there's a lot of reason to be very optimistic and extremely confident Celtic can get results in the next 5 games. I totally subscribe to that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that Ross County away, they finished 5th and they end up after 33 fixtures. It's a huge season under Malky Mackay that they've had. I know they've picked up a decent home result against their rivals, the 3-3 draw not too long ago. They've went about the business pretty quietly, and to be fair to them, the league table doesn't lie, as they say. But I'm also confident Celtic can go up to Dingwall and get a result. Absolutely I am. And that would then leave that home match against them with the goal difference looking the way it is right now. You'd be looking at that as a title-winning party, whether it would be official or not. That is not going to be turned round if we were to win that game. They've tried their best to dodge a title-winning decider, Jonathan. They're trying to work out the best way to do it. Inadvertently, it could still end up like that, particularly if Rangers to drop points in their first game after the split anyway, which, again, I'm not saying will happen or being overconfident it'll happen, but it could happen. What have you made of the fixture list that's been released? Are you blown away by it? Is it, is there really any very strong talking points to do with it?
Well, I think there's an interesting point in the way that the splits work, that you're going to end up having Celtic have went to, so many of these big places twice already away from home that haven't even finished, in the top 6. Hibs and Aberdeen would have been 2 teams the most would have expected to be in the top 6 come the end of the season, but neither of them have made it. But we still went to Pittodrie and Easter Road twice this season. Don't let anyone forget it. We've still had to make those trips. We've probably had our hardest away campaign, I would say, in a long, long time. In the league. So I wouldn't say there's too much to read into with the splits work now, because it's kind of worked out the way we expected. I do think the Ross County game is massive for us, because it just goes to show us another sign of intent there. You win that game, and really the title party is on against them at Celtic Park. You drop points in that game, you give them oxygen going into it, and they then have a bit of belief that if they can flip it and win at Celtic Park, then the title isn't as wrapped up as we were initially beginning to think it was, or certainly a lot of us were beginning to think it was. So it could still potentially unravel there. But for me, the way Celtic are playing, it's just so hard to look past them at the moment. But I do think Ross County's the massive one. If you're looking at them, I know everyone's going to be looking at Rangers and potentially a title-winning party there. But you've got to take care of Ross County first. If you don't take care of Ross County first, then you could end up in a bit more of a nervous position at Celtic Park, where they are given a bit more of a chance at getting themselves back into the race. Whereas we just want to make sure we are now on it and just get this job done. And as I say, everything that we've been doing over the last number of weeks all points towards the fact that there's no complacency in this Celtic squad, and I think it would take something very special for us not to beat Ross County in Dingwall, which, granted, by the way, isn't always been the easiest place for us to go. The Highlands isn't always kind to us. Take your point. The away games have worked out probably more favourably for us than perhaps in previous seasons after the split. But Dingwall and previously Inverness, when they used to be in the division, were notoriously difficult for Celtic. Notoriously difficult. So many times we've went up there expecting to win, and we've ended up looking a bit silly and not managed to get the job done. And on this occasion, we don't want to be giving them any opportunities to go to Celtic Park and thinking if they can win, you never know. They could just pose a wee question to us. We beat Ross County. For me, it kills Rangers. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I totally get that. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, we are favourites for it. Now, there's a lot of interaction coming in the comments. I'm all for different opinions. I've got Matt McIver, though, accusing me of an absolutely brutal shout. But to say it's my GG fourth choice striker equivalent comment, that's just lazy, Matt. Now, I'm all for debate, but all you've really said to disagree with me is you can think of 5 candidates more fitting. Not a lot of context in that. Well, I actually gave a lot of context yesterday as my reasoning for Kyogo being player of the year. And I'll stand by those points. If you think it's a brutal shout, that's absolutely fine. We're all here to disagree. But GG, fourth choice striker, with Kyogo being our best player this season, I disagree. It's the same thing, mate. I don't get that at all. But I'm sure you'll be able to explain why, and that is what the comment section is for. But
I think the brilliant thing about Player of the Year is that you could literally pick anyone from almost 1 to 11. That's how
we said that yesterday,
Jonathan.
Jonathan. We said that yesterday. It was all explained yesterday. Don't worry. We said all of that. Sean the Mac is in agreement with you, though, Jonathan. He feels there is no doubt we will win our next 5 league games. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with being confident. Let's take a wee look back to Saturday, though, from a different angle than what the Boyce'S normally does. Now, I hate stats. You know I'm not one of those staters. I'm not. Your eyes don't lie. That's my attitude. And whilst I know there's a place for it, I also think context of stats sometimes get completely lost. Completely lost. The pressure of the moment, the timing of the opportunity, how long the player been on the park for, if they've just came back from an injury and they've got an XG and all this shit. I don't think it takes into account enough of the mitigating circumstances that can occur in live sport when they're all just put on a spreadsheet. But with all that said, I do understand the role that it plays massively. Of course I do. Stats for yesterday, though, Jonathan, blew my tiny little napper. From Saturday, sorry. 83% to 17% possession. 956 total passes. 885 of those completed. 93 dangerous attacks. And then, of course, we had a 41 pass goal for O'Reilly's goal as well, Jonathan. Is that better than the Invincibles on a McDermott part? And by the way, feel free to dip into those other stat numbers there as well.
Yeah, I think the numbers are unbelievable, really, when you look at it. I'm not really overly big on possession stats because I think it all depends on what you're doing with the ball. Celtic at Ibrox the week before, I think we're trying to say on Clyde, they were trying to diminish Celtic in some ways, saying they only had 39% of the ball, but I think that's just the way those games are going to play out. But, in terms of the passing numbers, I think they're just insane. They are just insane, in terms of getting to those sort of figures. It's just an unbelievable number to really be hitting there, So as far as that goes, I think that has to be a massive credit to the manager and indeed the players as to how well they've actually managed to do by producing those sort of statistics. And I think it was even telling, when the 7th goal goes in, straight away the press from kickoff, they get the ball back almost immediately and they almost score again, straight away from there. So there is a lot to it. I take your point, obviously, with O'Reilly's goal potentially being just as good, or if not better, than Dembele's, I believe it was, at St Johnstone in Rodgers' first season. I did like Dembele's goal. There's just something about it. I think it was just marginally pips it for me, although they're both extremely impressive goals, no two ways about it. There's a lot of similarities between this Ange team and Rodgers' Celtic team in this first season, which I don't think any of us really expected to be seeing again quite so soon in terms of the quality that they've been putting in to these games. And if you were looking at the Brendan Rodgers team now against Ange's team that he's put together, I actually think it'll be a pretty close match. I'm not convinced that Ange's team couldn't, do Brendan Rodgers' team on their day. I think that's so much credit to Ange Postecoglou, because I think if you went through the teams player by player, I would say Rodgers had better individuals in certain positions. He also had a world-class left-back in Kieran Tierney, for example, and he had a few other brilliant players. Dembele's obviously gone on to prove himself in some of the top leagues in Europe since he's left, as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Ange's team progresses over time. But, for me, there's absolutely no doubt about it. There's so many similarities between them. And I think we're in for a really exciting European campaign next season under Postecoglou, once he's had another window to bring in a few more of his players and also have had a bit more time to coach the ones that are already there and develop them even further.
Jonathan, I totally agree with that. I mean, we will have a wee fun debate because, like I say, when you've been on 5 shows we've done in the last 4 days, right? I don't want us to keep recycling the same pattern. Do you know what I mean? So you're trying to find different nooks and crannies. Now, I believe, my opinion is that this team is showing a lot of similarities to the Invincible season. That first-year syndrome that Rodgers had, the first-year syndrome, Ange came from a position, I think, of maybe a bit more weakness than Rodgers, but believe you me, Celtic were going nowhere that summer when Rodgers took over, right? I don't think that can be underplayed. Short-term memory is always something that we're all guilty of, looking at the most realistic example and favouring it, whether it be music, whatever, like a new single you hear by your favourite group is the one in their top 5 ever, but really, was it as good as one that they had 10 years ago when they were at their peak? Maybe not. And I believe that with Celtic, I think Ange inherited absolute madness, right? Rodgers at the end of the day inherited a title winning side. I get that. But Celtic were a team that had half-full stadium at the time, They were signing guys like Colin Kazim Richards, Carlton Cole. The whole direction of the club, the identity of the actual team on the park seemed to be lost a bit. I think there was ideas Ronnie had getting mixed with a signing policy that didn't go with the fact that Ronnie wanted to integrate youngsters. Don't get me wrong, the first guy to play KT, Callum McGregor, was Ronnie Dyle. There's another one as well. But I think when you look at his signings, they weren't very Ronnie Dyle-esque. It looked like that was very much getting done above his station. And I believe that the Ange Postecoglou's came in and he very much signs players of a profile. They're a profile to fit how he sees his team playing. I absolutely believe as well that when he signs these guys, he's not signing them just purely on ability. I believe he signs them on a mentality. I think Rodgers, though, took Celtic, when he took on the Celtic job initially, I think he made Celtic more of a sell for players to come in, such as his reputation, etc. I know the Liverpool thing didn't quite go his way, but I think his stock was high, but we're all surprised we got him, let's be honest. So He was always going to be able to attract players. But I also think Rodgers went down a road of signing players on a promise that they'll move them on very quickly. Now, that can be a great mentality and a great motivation in the modern world, Jonathan, for players, because they all care about their own brand, their own career, and it's a short career. I get it to a point. What I also think with this team, and the difference is, Ange's signing guys sold on signing for Celtic. He is selling them Celtic, Jonathan. His name in football, no disrespect, isn't of that status. It'll get there, by the way. Trust me. If he keeps doing what he's doing, it will get there. He is a sensational acquisition Celtic have made alone. But what I do think is he's signing players, Jonathan, for the long haul. Look at the length of terms that guys are signing on. Giacomakis is a prime example. He was 26. He's turned 27 since he joined Celtic. He's on a 5-year deal. He's only in his first year of a 5-year deal. And I don't believe that was signed on the basis that during that 5 years we'll sell you on Chaos. I think it's very much. You're signing on a 5-year deal because you're going to spend the next 5 years at Celtic. And Chaos says, that's where I want to spend the next 5 years. If a move is to come up for these guys, sound. And it will be discussed at the time. But I don't feel Postecoglou's team is playing with one eye on their next career step. And I think that is part of his profile that he's looking for. We can all look, and I've talked at length about the work rate, the ethics, the speed, the pace, the pressing game that he's looking for in players. We all know that. But I also think he's looked guys in the eye and said, is this where you want to play your football? Is this where you see you playing your football? Not for a season. Is this where you see you playing your football? Full stop. And they all have to tell him yes before that deal gets done. That is why I would edge right now towards Postecoglou's side. What I would say though is the first term, Liam's coming in here with a good question. In fact, the question would have to be who would have the better first year if Ange gets the treble, Rodgers or O'Neill or Ange, I take it you mean. Con Turk says Ange ball is next level. It's far more exciting than any BR side. I again was watching highlights as Lil Z always posts on Twitter. I've told you all.
Yeah.
Get on that site. It's the best. Midnight every night. On this day, he'll like highlights of Celtic, particularly from the last sort of 30 years, because there's a lot more content of those video clips. He posted one of us beating Hearts 5-0 to win the league at Tynecastle the other day, mate. I watched that Rodgers to you out. That Invincibles team was something else on their day. I don't want to be rude to it, but I think it's a brilliant debate. I think when we look at the lineups, how they've been built, I just feel because we then have hindsight, the benefit of hindsight with Rodgers' side, we know a lot of the players were playing for their careers and not as maybe as much for Celtic as what we would have liked. Maybe even the manager to an extent. There's another debate. But with this Postecoglou side, Jonathan, you feel like this is something for the next 3 to 4 years that's getting built right now, when none of the players looking ahead too far, or over the fence as such.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think the difference in the way the two teams have been assembled is, I think, reflective on the managers. I think Rodgers, when he came into Celtic, probably knew, he was going to be more than capable of doing this job. He probably realised this was going to be something that would do him over for a few years until something else came up in England. I'm a firm believer in that Brendan Rodgers was never planning on hanging around long term. I think, he maybe would have even hanging around, I think, to get to 10 in a row. I'm not entirely sure that was all that interesting to him, and in the end it did, walk away in the middle of the season. Whereas I think Postecoglou, looks at it, and I think he's just grateful for the opportunity to have been given this chance, because it was a name that a lot of us looked at and thought, who is this guy? Where is he getting this opportunity? And I think he's came in and been like, well, I'm going to show these guys exactly what they're missing, exactly what I can bring to the table here. Yes, fair enough. I probably wasn't Celtic's number one choice, not by a long shot last summer. But, I've been given this opportunity, and I'm now going to seize it and bring in the players, that I think can do the job. And I think, we touched upon it with Brendan Rodgers and the fact that, you've mentioned how he has this aura and this ability to bring in players, from his first spell. I think Ange probably has the same in Asia. I really do. I think people that have worked or played with near him or under him probably have a lot of time for Postecoglou there as well. I think there's no coincidence the Japanese boys have all seemed to hit the ground running. Granted, we haven't seen a lot of Hidiguchi, but I think the rest have all proven themselves, to be very shrewd acquisitions, and I think that's because they've already been familiar with how this manager operates and works. I think Postecoglou has, got an even better eye, perhaps, for players' mentality than Brendan Rodgers, because I'm not sure that was what Rodgers immediately, looked at. You've got to remember, Rodgers had a few absolute stinking signings, some good ones and some absolute howlers in there as well. I don't think in the transfer market Brendan Rodgers was as strong as Postecoglou has been. When it comes to coaching, I think they're both very good at that. I think, if you're looking at Rodgers' Invincibles team, I think that's just such a brilliant team. It's very hard, to look past them. But at the same time, I guess if you were going to make the argument for Postecoglou, you could argue that the league was in a weaker place in terms of the opposition at that time. Rangers had only just got into the division. They were still finding their feet, going through a bit of a transition spell. Aberdeen were obviously still the second strongest team in Scotland when Rodgers came in, and they went on and proved it, finished second in the Invincibles season. So there is that element to it. But at the same time, even if you were to have put the same teams up against Rodgers' Invincibles, I think they would have done just as well, if not better, than what Postecoglou's team has managed to do as well. And it's such a good one. It'd be like fantasy football seeing the two.
I don't think there's that much in it. I don't think there's as much in it as some are suggesting.
A fantasy football sort of matchup, if you're able to put the two sides against each other, then wow, you'd have something special on your hands there. Because I think apart from Kieran Tierney aside, to be guaranteed to play in either of those teams, I think you could almost make a case for almost anybody else from either team to come in and play. If you were to go through the full 11.
Totally, mate. Totally agree with that. I think when you look at it as well, Brown Warrior comes in. I know Brown doesn't like Rodgers. I think history will be kind to Brendan Rodgers. I was raging with him at the time, by the way, but I've took a step back out it. You learn more as well as time goes on. But here's one that I think, Brown, you may have tripped yourself up a bit here, because the problem with Rodgers was that he could approach a game versus Barca the same as he could face Arnold and Aki's. Possession-based football versus Barca, okay. I think it could be a long season for us next year then, if you think that's a problem, Brown, as I do not see Ange Postecoglou changing the way he plays. I think Joe Hart will be giving us heart attacks if it were at the Camp Nou, just as much as what Brendan Rodgers, who was it, De Vries in goals then doing the short balls out. I'm sorry, I think we're in for the exact same all over again. And then it will be interesting to see who can actually execute it better at the top level, if we are to make it to the group stages of the Champions League. Villarreal right now, Jonathan, giving all us Celtic fans palpitations as they continue to make the inroads in the Champions League. They beat Bayern Munich through the week there in the first leg. That is the last typical Celtic headache we need, mate. It really is.
Oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Bayern Munich will see them off this week.
They'll see them. I know, John.
Bayern Munich will see them off this week.
It'd be peak Scottish football, though, Jonathan, if it weren't to happen. But yeah, I just thought I'd pick up that one for Brown, because I do actually take a lot of the stuff he says on board in regards to Rodgers. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's all what the bus is about.
I think that's quite similar, though, to how Postecoglou's approached a lot of his Europa League games, though, as well. Because he did the same against Leverkusen, if people remember. And, he got pasted at Celtic Park. Granted, it could have been a totally different game if we took our chances, particularly earlier on in that match. But then, he could have adapted it when they went to Germany. But he went for the same thing again. He very nearly won that game, over in Germany. So anyone thinking Postecoglou is going to, approach a Champions League game, if that's indeed what Celtic end up
pragmatic.
Are crazy. He's going to go for it. He's going to try and win. He's going to try and win in his own way. I don't think he's the type of guy like what Neil Lennon did all those years ago to Barcelona, where he's just going to put everyone behind the ball and see if we can get a lucky break away and score. I think Postecoglou is going to try and do exactly the same way that Brendan Rodgers did. Whether he'll have better results with it remains to be seen. I've no doubt Celtic will probably take some beatings if they're in the Champions League, but wouldn't it be worth it potentially if you were to get that perfect performance and actually beat one of these really big clubs whilst also being able to play some really good football? Totally. I think that's the aim for him.
I agree with that, Jonathan. I agree with that. We will move on to the next comment by Joe Curran saying, "Hi, the Boyce's Bus boys. Keep up the shows." We will do, Joe. And thank you for your support. There's 140 watching right now on a Monday night. Wow. It's wild. Absolutely wild. I'm buzzing with that. And thank you all so much. Please, if you are watching live, hit the like button, because we're noticing when you hit the like button, it's appearing in a lot more Celtic like-minded fans' YouTube homepage. They might just be on YouTube and it's coming up as a recommended video for them, just purely because you're hitting the like button. It takes you not of a second, Jonathan, just to hit the like button. So please, if you are watching on YouTube, hit like, because it's helping our numbers. And we've had, in the last 7.5 days, over 12,500 views. If you were to go back to 8 days, it's something like 18,000 views we've had in the last 8 days, because obviously we had the huge Sunday post-match piss show. So we are hoping that if you are watching live, subscribing's brilliant, of course it is, but whilst you're in here, hit like. It does help us. Anyway, don't like to go too far into that. It's not really my style, but it does help. And that's it. That's my begging bowl well and truly out. Now, Jonathan, it does, though, make us have a wee look ahead. Now, such is the nature of the domestic fixture dates, Jonathan. We've actually, it's going to be an 8-day gap come next Sunday. We're going to take a wee look ahead to next Sunday. Why not? We only get Jonathan Boyce once a week, ladies and gentlemen. So we've got to do reviews, previews, anything else in between as well each time we get him onto the Monday Club. So how much of an advantage is it going to be, Jonathan, for us to have that 8-day gap? I'm going to play devil's advocate with it. If they were to get a result that propels them into a semi-final of a major European tournament, let's be honest, the second biggest European tournament, it's a massive achievement if they were to do that. Does adrenaline then play a big part I think tiredness won't come into it. Of course, if they're to get a negative result, particularly at home, what I think is an okay European side. I mean, they're not shite, Braga, but I think it's one that they'd be hopeful of winning. So we've got two sides. If they were to win it, go into a semi-final, I think they are got their tails up, Jonathan, and tiredness, fatigue doesn't come into it as much as we might think. If they were to lose it, I think the legs are a lot heavier. How much of an disadvantage it is that Celtic don't have a game in these next 8 days, and all we can do is solely focus our efforts on it. And again, you can sprinkle this, Jonathan, with your thoughts on, wouldn't we rather have a European game as well this Thursday? For me, I would. But the fact is we don't. We are where we are. 8 days of planning ahead. Is it a good or a bad thing?
You can definitely make a case for either or, but I think having the break always helps. I think with the intensity that we are playing our games at, I think it makes a big difference having the bigger breaks now. And I think you've actually seen that since we went out of Europe, as the Celtic performances have steadily started to improve. I feel like they were putting some really solid performances right at the start of the new year before they were starting playing the European games, and the European games kind of came in. There was a little bit of a lull. They were still winning games, don't get me wrong, but there was a little bit of a lull in terms of the performances. And I think since they went back out of Europe, I think they've actually benefited a lot from having those extra days off. Granted, I know they've also had some weeks where they've played domestic games on a Tuesday or Wednesday night in between times. If you're looking at it from a Rangers point of view, a Rangers team that you would probably have expected to beat Braga, if we're being honest, over 2 legs, I thought they would. I still think they will, given the fact that tie is still very much open. It's only 1-0. So if they were to win that game, then I think they go into the Cup semi-final with a wave of confidence on their back, and that will help get them through the game. I don't think there'll be an issue for them whatsoever. If they were to beat Braga on Thursday night and be in the Europa League semi-final, the shot in the arm that will give them. We've seen it with Celtic in the past, as well, going back to the Martin O'Neill days in Celtic's road to Seville, the amount of times where, we got results on that run and then we came back and we hit the ground running again in the league. And I think Rangers would be capable of doing something similar. If they were to lose on Thursday, then oh dear, the pressure then goes up tenfold for them. Fair enough, even if they win, no one still expect them to win the Europa League. But, they've still got that outside chance at it. They're in the Final Four. Who knows what could happen?
Absolutely.
They lose. They lose on Thursday night, and all of a sudden the league is hanging by a thread from their point of view. They are now looking at the Scottish Cup as their best chance of success at the time when this game is going to be played. And that comes with a lot of pressure on them. And that I think benefits Celtic massively, because I think this Rangers team domestically have proven they do not like Scottish domestic pressure in the league or indeed in the Cups. And I think that could prove to be a decisive factor in how the game plays out on Sunday. But it'll be very interesting. I think that the fact that they've got a European game on Thursday night certainly adds an extra dynamic, and from a psychological standpoint, depending on how that game plays out, I think that will have an impact on what happens on Sunday, as well. But from a Celtic point of view, 8 days, rest up, get yourself ready to go again, and you'll have them in a training sessions. I think Postecoglou now knows what to expect against Rangers. He's proven the last couple of times that he's had their number. So I think he's going to be too strong for them, and Postecoglou will be prepared for whatever outcome happens on Thursday. I don't think he'll be overly concerned about it. That'll certainly make for an interesting dynamic, I think, on Sunday, depending on what happens on the Thursday night for them.
No, I think it's very interesting, Jonathan. I mean, I think obviously Jock Griffin is saying a bit of extra time on Thursday with an emotional breakdown. That'll set us up for another 7-1 in the sun. Oh, Hampden in the sun. I mean, that would be incredible. I think realistically what we need to look at, Jonathan, is Ange Postecoglou's side is all about Celtic. It's all about what we do. And they can be knackered, they can be fully fit, but if we do everything, our game plan, and we execute all that properly, we will get the desired result. I think it's going to be a very interesting week for Scottish football, and I'm hoping that if Rangers were to get beat, I don't want them to get cuffed. Do you know what I mean? I don't want Scottish sides getting cuffed. And I know we're talking about Celtic being on the wrong end of terrible results previously under the likes of Rodgers and stuff in Europe. And I think it's an exciting time for Scottish football coming up, Jonathan, next season, particularly if we're to get, if we are to get this, this automatic group stage Champions League. Something that didn't occur to me is that that the Scottish Cup winners are due to go straight into the Conference League now as well, because they go into the Europa League playoff. And if they don't win that, you're straight into the group stage of the Conference League. But if you win the Europa League playoff, then you're in the group stage of the Europa League. I mean, it looks like
huge opportunities for Scottish clubs this summer.
I think it's massive, mate. I think it's massive, and it's time that Celtic next year, lead from the front, I think, in Europe again and become, Scotland's staple side in Europe. I would love to see that. But again, I'm also excited to see whether it be Hearts or if it is to be someone else. Hibs, I think, are the only other option now that could be in that.
Cup, yeah.
So Hibs, I mean, imagine one of those two in group stage football again, guaranteed European football to Christmas, guaranteed revenue of at least £3 to £4 million extra they're going to make.
Yeah,
one of those sides.
Massive.
Their Scottish Cup semi-final is fucking huge, by the way, on Saturday.
Biggest Edinburgh derby there's been in a long time. Decades.
Absolutely massive. So, again, very much looking forward to seeing how that goes and how all our clubs feature next year in European football. It's great fun to slag Rangers when they go in Europe. For me, you just can't lose when Rangers are in Europe. I just go, it was brilliant for the coefficient. It's done us a favour, maybe them adding to the points total, albeit Celtic have won more over the last 5 years, which dictate the fact that we get group stage football in the 22-23 season, provided Villarreal don't do the impossible. Remember, that is based on the last 5 years. Celtic have actually won more points to that coefficient the Rangers did. It's not our fault they were getting knocked out by Progress and stuff like that, or were in the other leagues 5 years ago, or maybe in their first season in the SPFL ever. That's not really our problem. But yes, their contribution, though, of late has been valued. I think in the 1920 season, they earned 15 points towards the coefficient, Celtic earned 3. So, of course, we take that on board, and that shows the importance of Scottish sides doing well in European football. And I certainly hope that Hearts, whether it be Hibs, also can go and contribute to that coefficient and have a good, make a good fist of it. And hopefully that will obviously lead to more quality being brought to the league as well. The more competitive is the better for me. Do you know what I mean? Particularly when the money's earned and getting used on merit, Jonathan, and not just by digging your own grave. Now, finally, we'll have a bit of fun. Me and Regan, Jonathan, spoke about Player of the Year. It's time for you so far to say, because the only reason I'm bringing this one in is because there's been so many comments by Matt McIver, for example, about Player of the Year. He thinks my shout is brutal. Other people think, well, Celtic wouldn't be in this title race if it hadn't been for Kyogo. His contribution to us winning this league's actually, in my opinion, Jonathan, still more sizable individually than anyone else's, because it was when it was a poor Celtic side, he was the difference maker. He also brought us our first trophy single-handedly near enough as well with the League Cup. A lot of people might not value the League Cup. Again, that is up to debate. Jonathan, who so far has impressed you most of this Celtic side? And remember, it's not a diss on anyone else. It's not anyone dismissing the form and the contributions of others. It's just a bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at Player of the Year, I'll start by saying I think there's a nail uncertainty on Young Player of the Year will be a badder. I think that's an absolute nailed on will be a badder will win Young Player of the Year.
Sure, that's a good shout. I think
it's been brilliant. In terms of Player of the Year, I'm going to go slightly different, and I'm going to say Callum McGregor. And there's a few reasons why. I think with Callum McGregor, I think Celtic really did miss him when he was out injured for a number of games. It was his first season as a captain. I think he's led by example brilliantly. I felt, particularly in the game against Rangers at Ibrox just the other week, without Callum McGregor in there, that result could have been so much different. I feel like he's just really grown into that role so much over the year. We all know how much of a good footballer he is, McGregor. And I think, he's really blossoming into quite the player, and has proven that he can also be a very memorable captain for Celtic as well. He had big shoes to fill in the summer, when he took over from Scott Brown. So for me, Callum McGregor, I know it probably won't be the most obvious of choices for a lot of people, but for me, I think he's been brilliant.
Same guy Regan said yesterday, Jonathan. Absolute same person that he opted for. Good to know. Obviously, you were watching yesterday, Jonathan. I'm sure that's where you've took that knowledge from. But yes, that was Regan's choice as well. So I think it might be more popular than what you think. I think Callum McGregor's absolutely growing into the role as captain. We were, again, talking so much about that run. I felt it was McGregor's moment, Jonathan, if you will, at Ibrox, where he really did. It was a captain's move. It was a completely different style of leadership than what we were accustomed to under Scott Brown. Neither way is wrong, by the way. Leadership is leadership. Setting an example is setting an example. Scott Brown did it in some fantastic ways as well, and I think his motivational skills on the part were second to none. And he just did it in different sort of ways. I think, genuinely, when you're looking at Callum McGregor's run there with the ball at his feet, he just gave everyone that reminder, Jonathan, why we're here. We're here to play football. We are a footballing team. Don't forget, Juranovic out to run with the ball or pass the ball, you wee idiot. Watch this. And I just thought it was a huge moment in that game. It was the turning point for me. It was the one that Rangers seen coming less. We were on the ropes, Jonathan. The way we were playing, everyone was spooked. Callum McGregor just suddenly, and I think it just completely baffled the side. Juddy Talks is watching. Good to have you on. You're shaving the head if we win the treble. That ain't going to happen, young man. We can't all be as ballsy.
It won't grow back. There's no danger he's doing that.
We can't all be as ballsy as you, Juddy, mate. You rock it though, mate. So we'll let you stick to doing that, my man. But thank you for watching, mate. It's good to have you on the bus. Juddy Talks does a lot of great things on the old YouTube, particularly his vlog, which is flying just now. I was lucky enough to go on one of his lock-in shows, and it was great fun. I know he had half the Endless Celts team on Friday, I think it was. So check that out as well if you are looking for some further YouTube content. I meant to say that. It's because I'm reading comments. I said comments. Jonathan, that's us past the hour mark. There's over 130 watching live. Not bad for a Monday night, Jonathan. This little minibus keeps turning into a wee sort of double-decker the new, mate. We are doing a lot of good things.
More of a box office podcast by the week. And speaking of box office, I would like to give you my knockout of the week this
That's
week.
How we round off the show, mate.
That's how we round off the show. And it's going to be the Roadrunner Danger Maeda, because he just covered every blade of grass. I was super impressed with him on Saturday. Needs to be signed up immediately. Get it done, and stop messing about. Get this guy on a contract permanently, because he was sensational on Saturday.
I think he was a knockout blow of the week, worthy of the tag, Jonathan. I know he only got one goal, but he was absolutely everywhere. Some of his numbers, he recorded the fastest ever sprint on Saturday. Was that last Sunday? Last Sunday he recorded the fastest ever sprint, but yeah, Saturday he just picked up from where he'd left off, really. Ibrox, a sensational display, absolutely amazing. A worthy winner of Jonathan Boyce's knockout of the week. We'll need to get Lonsdale or something to sponsor that, Jonathan. We'll get in touch with them. Well, it won't be quite the Everlast, but we'll work up to them, mate. But yeah, Lonsdale will do for now. The Donny Shop, we'll get them to sponsor it. But aye, we will get there somehow, mate. Thank you for your contribution. Thanks to everyone in the comments. It's been absolutely outstanding. Danielle reminding you it's an obligation that we sign him, Jonathan. It was just obviously Celtic being clever with their finances in January. Thanks to everyone in the comments, though. Absolutely loved it. Monday nights really aren't anything without the Boyce's bus revving up and coming into town. We've done it again tonight. Luckily, you'll get a nice piece off me tomorrow. I'll make sure that my vocal cords are all back to their best. For, I think, Wednesday, we might play some Championship Manager. It's been a while. I know it's not the most popular content that we do on the bus, but it's starting to keep the week sort of ticking over, keep the channel going. Thanks again for all your support. If you are looking for some clobber for the summer, Jonathan, we recommend only one place to go, and that is fanboyfootball.com. There are the t-shirts, the top 3 up there. You'll see them. The Don't Back Doing Double Doing t-shirt, the black away kit, if you like, and then the home kit, if you want to call them that, being the white one with the green logo. It's time to hear some Chris Sutton. Everyone, have a good night. Stay calm. Jonathan thinks we win all the rest of our league games. Nothing to worry about. That sort of optimism is what it's all about on the bus. Thanks again to you all. Have a brilliant week. I will catch up with you soon. See you later.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.